Welcome to Destination 101, the podcast of Toastmasters District 101. In this alternate short format, instead of a road trip along our namesake of Highway 101 in California, think of this as a short pit stop or a vista point. I'm your host, Birgit Starmanns. Welcome to Destination 101, another pit stop edition of this podcast. This time, we're going to be talking about hybrid meetings. Now, by hybrid, I know we initially always think about hybrid cars, or even going further back, thinking about hybrid plants that we learned about in biology in high school. But we're talking about hybrid meetings. With the pandemic, online meetings have really become the norm, and many teams, organizations, and Toastmasters clubs are trying to get back to meeting in person. As a stepping stone to meeting in person, a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, and especially Toastmasters clubs are looking at hybrid meetings. Well, what do we mean by that? I've heard some folks say that they consider hybrid as alternating between meeting online and meeting in person. Well, to be honest, I just consider that as alternating meetings, even though I know some university classes also consider that hybrid. When it comes to hybrid meetings, typically we think about a group of people meeting in one place and then others dialing in remotely. Now, whether it's a lot of individuals dialing in remotely from their own locations, or maybe another group or two meeting together in another location, but still dialing in, all of that would be considered hybrid, a hybrid between online and in person. If you think about it, we've actually done this for quite a long time, at least we have in business. On business calls, there are many situations where I was in a meeting, and most of the people attending the meeting were in one room, and there would be a couple of people that were dialing in. So we had this big Polycom speakerphone that was sitting in the middle of the table, and we would push it around so it would be close to the person that was speaking so that all the remote attendees could actually hear what was going on. And also, especially in business, a lot of times they were people that were on a business trip on their way to the airport, for example, and they would still dial into conference calls. Now with Zoom, we were more flexible to see each other in team meetings. It's almost become a little bit more rigid because we've abandoned the whole idea of just dialing in on audio. Now, let's talk about hybrid meeting considerations. And in this pit stop edition, I'm not going to be talking about the technical details, but just a few things to think about as especially Toastmasters clubs are thinking about going back to meeting in person. Number one, just because you can meet in person, should you? Now, of course, we're all looking at the CDC guidelines to see whether it's okay to meet in person. But to be honest, a lot of meeting locations for Toastmasters clubs are actually in offices, and there aren't that many offices that are completely open, even to their own employees. And they're not going to be open to having external people come in as visitors, even if it's an open Toastmasters club that allows non-employees to be members. Second, there are many Toastmasters clubs that now have members that are coming in from far away. With the past year and a half, it was possible to visit clubs all over the globe, and there are many members that join clubs that were not really within driving distance of them. Having those members still be able to participate is a major consideration. And finally, some members may just not feel comfortable meeting in person yet because they may be immunocompromised or they're just not comfortable meeting in close proximity with a lot of other people. Now, if you decide that going hybrid is the way to go, again, there are many reasons for doing so, especially if you have a lot of remote members. Get an idea of how many people will be online versus in person. It could be that just 2 or 3 people want to meet in person, but the others really will not be joining in person, in which case you might want to rethink whether it's a little bit too early to go hybrid or in person. You'll want to check with your venue about availability of certain features. Now, if you're in a business location, you'll probably have it, but if you're meeting in a hotel or a restaurant or a church or a library, you'll have to check on these things. Wi-Fi. Nobody really has Ethernet physical connections to the internet anymore, but there are different levels of Wi-Fi strength and bandwidth that different locations may have. You'll need to check to see if you choose to project a meeting screen. You'll need a small projector, which the venue may have, or you may have to bring. You'll also need a place to project, whether this is a movie or film strip screen, or whether it's just a blank white wall. And think about this, you'll need power outlets. Because all of this equipment that you're going to need, for example, laptops, a projector, microphones, these things need power. So you'll want to make sure that you have enough power outlets. Now, there are some rooms, even in hotel conference rooms, that don't always have a lot of power outlets, so you'll need to think about surge protectors, for example. Now, be creative. Just because it's not a conference room doesn't mean it can't be done. Just because you don't have a film screen for the projection doesn't mean you can't use something like a plain white wall. Just because there's a picture on the one plain white wall doesn't mean you might not be able to take it down for the course of the meeting. So again, be creative, because if you put your mind to it, a lot of things are possible. Also, I would suggest you do not invest in high-end equipment right away until you've kind of worked out the kinks. You don't want to buy a camera or a microphone and find out that it's the wrong kind of camera or the wrong kind of microphone. There are some mics that are unidirectional. There are some that are omnidirectional. Which is going to work best? So see what your members have initially, see what they can bring in before you invest club funds. Eventually, you'll want to invest in some of this equipment so that you're not dependent on that one person that has the right kind of microphone or the right kind of camera. But you'll want to see what works first before you start making those monetary investments. And finally, realize this. It's not going to be perfect the first time. Again, Toastmasters is a place to learn. Don't let that impact the value of the meeting and the content you'll be sharing, because technical glitches here or there, we're here to learn how to communicate, and we're here to learn how to share our message. And with that, we'll hope you tune in next time for our next message. Tune in next time and comment or email us at destination101.podcast@gmail.com and review prior episodes at www.d101tm.org/destination-101. Chat with you soon.